What's up, golf fans, and welcome to this week's edition of The Golf Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm one of your co-hosts, Lucas Weiss, and I'm here to introduce my other co-host, who's from sunny California and always welcoming pointers on how to improve his golf game. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley. Steve, how you doing today?
Doing okay, Lucas. How are you doing? World travels all over Canada last week. At the U.S. Women's Canadian Open, and you've got some good stories to tell about that week, and what a great victory for Canada. And but I'm doing fine. So go ahead and start us off. Why don't we just start off, get right into the U.S. Open, the Canadian Open, LPGA Canadian Open, and the results there that were pretty exciting for the people of Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the pleasure of covering the Canadian Open event with the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and really it was just a real historical week. I mean, Brooke Henderson, who's Canada's top golfer, ended up winning her first Canadian Open, shooting a final round 65. And it was just so exciting. I mean, the whole crowds were obviously following her, and she just raised her game. She raised her game when she needed to most. A lot of pressure on her, of course, because there hadn't been a Canadian to have won the Canadian Open since 1973. It's a 45-year drought. But she raised her game. She conquered the adversity, just playing some terrific golf, particularly on the back nine. She had 5 birdies on the back nine on Sunday and was able to pull out what was just a remarkable victory. She becomes the 4th Canadian to have won on home soil, joining Platt Fletcher, Jocelyn Barassa, and Mike Weir. So clearly this win is so important for the country of Canada because, you know, we're known for hockey and curling, not so much known for golf. So hopefully now this win can really launch Brooke Henderson's career to become a real superstar. She already has a major championship, now a Canadian Open, and hopefully it'll just transcend the game of golf in Canada, which is so important. So congrats to Brooke Henderson, a huge victory for her, and it was just a pleasure to be there covering such a historical moment for Canadian sports.
Yeah, I believe she's only the second woman ever to win the Women's Canadian Open. Is that correct? The other of the 4 people have won on home field. 2 are men and 2 are women now. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So she's the second Canadian-born to have won the Canadian Open, breaking a 45-year drought.
Right. Now, do you think that for Brooke, does this elevate her status or her game to the level where she's competitive every week, or was this kind of a one-hit wonder for her? I know she has a major in play, but what has she done? I mean, is this a high mark for her career, or is this something that now we consider her to be in contention almost every week she plays now?
I think this launches her into contention every week. I mean, she had struggled a bit this summer just because her 2 grandfathers passed away. So she was, carrying a heavy heart with her, throughout the summer. But she was always in the top 10, Steve, but just couldn't quite put together all 4 rounds to get a win. But the week before Canada, she shot 63 in Indianapolis in the final round. So she was coming in with a lot of confidence. And now you got to put her in contention to compete at the final major of the year in the LPGA Tour, at the Evian Championship. And, of course, now she's number 5 in the Rolex LPGA ranking. So this is huge for her, and we're going to see her name, I think, at a lot more of these top tournaments because she strikes the ball well. She's great tee to green. And if she putts the way that she did this past week, especially draining in some long clutch putts in pretty big moments, she just has the full, complete game that I think we'll see a lot of success for her.
Did she pretty well lead wire to wire?
She did. I mean, she I believe she was about 1 or 2 back after Thursday, the same on Friday. Then she took the lead after 36 holes and then never gave it up. So from Friday to Sunday, she was in the lead.
All right. Well,
and
I got
take in, and she's only 20 years old. So to be able to handle that pressure and adversity with all the country on your shoulders at 20, to play that well on the weekend and to shoot at 65 on Sunday, battling all the different types of weather that we saw there, quite impressive.
Yeah. There's 2 things that are near and dear to my heart here. One, she plays Ping equipment, which is the equipment I play. So therefore, I already like her a lot better because she plays the same equipment I play, although hers is probably a little more dialed in than mine is. But the other thing I'd be real concerned is that if her talents keep growing like that and you guys don't get involved in this NAFTA trade act with Mexico, Trump may tax the crap out of her talent. Who knows what she does when she comes back to the United States.
Yeah, jeez. Don't get me started on that.
This is not a political show, so we're not going to go there.
No, for sure not, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. But anyway, just a great week, Steve. Just amazing crowds, and it was just made me very proud to be a Canadian for sure.
What was the highlight for you being there? I mean, you're in the ropes, you're in the press boxes, you're in you're in the snack bar, the press snack bar.
Yeah.
I've seen those before, so I know how nice those can be.
Well, the media are treated very well, but and for me, it was. I mean, I've covered a few tournaments this summer, but just to hear, just the overall crowd support, the people of Saskatchewan where it was played. It's a prairie province, so very laid back, great people that love their sports. And, on the 18th green after she won, the whole crowd broke out into the national anthem. They were all standing with pride and singing the national anthem. That definitely gave me chills as someone who, again, we look at Canadian sports and we think hockey and curling. Now with this great win, I mean, you really got to put, golf into that, conversation now, especially if Brooke can continue and follow up this success and not be like a Mike Weir who really just won the Masters and then, really took a real decline. But I like where Brooke's head is at. She's a real family person. She definitely credited her family when, talking about the victory, and just overall a great week in Canada.
Yeah, and don't forget the other Canadian national sport is Iditarod racing, which you will be covering this fall, this winter when it starts up.
Of course.
You will be live and on the scene.
Even though it takes place in Alaska, which I think is America, but we'll call Canada because it just sounds better.
We kind of let Canada claim Alaska as far as we're concerned. I've been out to Alaska. It is a beautiful place, no doubt, but actually surprisingly not as cold as people think it is up there all the time.
Canadian territories.
we're gonna seat you in a sled right behind the lead dog. Which, if you ain't the lead dog, you're full of shit. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to other
good job. Stuff. Yeah. Good job with the Canadian Open. It's always fun to see a country have a situation like that where one of their hometown compatriots wins, and it's a great win for Brooke, and let's see if she can carry it on out and start to make a big name for herself on the LPGA Tour. And on now to the Northern Trust Open, right? Want to go there now?
Yes. First leg of the FedEx Cup, and Bryson DeChambeau, Steve, why don't you talk about that? I mean, it was his second victory this year on the tour, and once he got hold of that lead, there was no one stopping him.
Well, what impressed me about Bryson, and I watched a good part of the tournament, was he made no mistakes. I mean, he's not necessarily a spectacular player. He's putting lights out, which, for a Ryder Cup consideration, putting is what wins these things. drive for show, putt for dough, the old adage goes that I didn't invent and you didn't invent, but, we all use it and hear it. But he just simply was unflappable and made no mistakes and didn't get himself rattled or get himself in a situation where he had to bail himself out. He was in play most of the time, and he just steady eddied all the way around the course for 4 rounds. And I think he's definitely now pretty much locked himself onto the Ryder Cup team. I think you have to be silly not to take him at this point in time with 2 PGA Tour wins, especially winning one in the FedEx Cup playoffs. Of course, that selection will be made after next week's tournament, which we'll get to. But there's some great notables from different people. Phil Mickelson, who I was kind of on the bubble with, comes out and shoots 9 under, finishes 15th in the tournament, playing probably what I thought was some of the best golf he's played all year. Just for 4 rounds. He kept it all together and he got himself out of the messes he gets into with his driver occasionally. And I really liked what I saw there. So I think he pretty well has locked himself onto the team, and we'll talk. And then Tiger, Tiger finished 4 under, tied for 40th. But the impressive thing to me with Tiger was he went 28 or 29 holes without a bogey. He had a bad putting week. He did not putt well this week. Yeah, and he lipped, I think on the last round, he must have lipped 5 or 6 putts that, literally lipped the hole. And, they were going straight and they turned 90 degrees one way or another. And I think that, but the fact that he played 28 holes was as suspect as his driver. It looks like he's got his driver in gear. He's got the right equipment put together now. He said he had changed heads and changed shafts and had put a new piece of equipment in his bag. And, 28 straight holes without having a bogey. I don't know that I've heard Tiger do that before because he's always been a risk-reward type player. So, all in all, we eliminated 25 people for the tournament. No real notable names dropping out. Charles Schwartzel, I think maybe the biggest name that I can find on the 25 that left. Now you're down to the last 100 players. We'll pare it down to 70 after this week. And then we go from there, we dive into cutting it down to the top 30. So now you're going to see a situation where good talent starts getting cut simply by numbers. You're going to have to play your best golf right now to keep to advance into the next round. So we'll see what happens. But I thought the big guns came out and played well. Dustin Johnson played well. Speed had some moments where he was playing. Brooks Koepka is just automatic.
Yeah,
he has not shown any signs of faltering anywhere down the road. But I think now what Furyk needs to really begin to look at is pairings of how he's going to pair people up and see who's playing what type of golf. And he's got that luxury now because I genuinely think he probably has 11 of his 12 players picked going into this next tournament. I'd be hard-pressed to eliminate any one of the 3 that are in contention. But you never know.
I think they're locked. I agree with you, Steve. I think with Bryson DeChambeau winning his second victory, that puts him in a lock on the team because Tiger has played many practice rounds with him. He's alluded to in previous press conferences that he likes Bryson's, real intensity on the golf course. And you're right. With Ryder Cup, those first couple days, it's all about putting the right pairings together in the 4-ball and best ball matches. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Tiger and Bryson, play together just because of their experiences and comfortability with each other. And I think Bryson is someone who, when he gets hot, he's a tough player to beat. And this year, in addition to the 2 victories, he has a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. So he's been up there this year, and I just don't see Jim Furyk not picking him because he's won in the playoffs now. He comes in with a lot of confidence, and with his ability now to pair with Tiger perhaps, that could be a real crucial factor as to why the American team chooses him to be on the Ryder Cup.
I believe also he was the first player not qualified automatically for the Ryder Cup, was he not?
Correct. So he was just behind Webb Simpson.
Right. The top 8 were automatically qualified, and then the 9th player was Bryson DeChambeau. So I think on that merit alone, having won a tournament in the playoffs, and the fact that he already was number 9 would make him a lock. So now you've got the Dell Technologies Open coming up. We're going back to TPC Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we see going on here?
Well, now for Jim Furyk, it's that final Ryder Cup spot, which I think is going to be very interesting to see. I mean, the guys that we've been talking about on our show so far, Kevin Kisner, Tony Finau, I think they're kind of the 2 guys really battling for one spot if we're assuming that Phil, Tiger, and Bryson are locks on the team. I think Tony Finau, Steve, he finished second, as you said, in the Northern Trust. I expect him to have a big week this week to really solidify his place on the Ryder Cup team. As we've talked about, he hits the ball very far, and when he gets going on the putter, he's very dominant. So expect to see Tony Finau have a big week this week to try to put himself in contention for a captain's pick.
And Tony finishes straight out second this past week, right behind Bryson DeChambeau. He's a long ball hitter. He's a fresh young talent. He's going to have a lot of spunk, a lot of high energy coming into the tournament. But we'll see. I mean, I still think that last spot is pretty open between 2 or 3 players. But I think at this point it's open, but I think it's probably Finau's to lose at this point in time.
Well, yeah, because if Kevin Kisner, let's say, or someone in that kind of bubble goes out and, let's say, wins the tournament, then all of a sudden you got to ask yourself, okay, they're the ones now that you got to put into that captain's pick consideration.
Right. Yeah. I think that the pressure's on Finau for the last spot, because I think that it's his to lose. If he comes out and plays the way he played this past week at the Northern Trust, I think it'll be his to automatically take that position. But like you said, if Kisner or somebody else who's in the mix for consideration wins the tournament, then all of a sudden you've got a tough situation. So Tony's got to have probably his best 72 holes of golf to make the Ryder Cup this week.
Sure.
He's had all year to really solidify the tournament. He's playing great golf right now. So
for sure.
He hit some magical
right
shots.
There in the major.
Yeah, he chipped in a couple times. He hit some really clutch shots, kept himself in play throughout the whole tournament. And like I said, he finished second outright. So interesting conversation, though. And we kind of got wind of this, and they were mentioning it some on the television, that should Tiger be selected to the Ryder Cup as a player, that Furyk wants to replace him with a different assistant captain. And what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I can see it because it puts a lot of pressure. The assistant captain plays a large role generally in helping build the groupings and the pairings, and a lot of the on-course management and monitoring of the players and teams. And so what are your thoughts on the fact that if Tiger does make it as a player, who does he look to replace as a assistant captain with him?
Well, I think, first of all, I think the 2 positions should be separated for the reasons that you just mentioned about the assistant captain. It's such an important position. And I don't think if Tiger were that while playing, I don't think he could really focus on both, the best. So I think if Tiger's playing, he needs to be a player, focus on trying to help his team win. And then for a replacement, I think Matt Kuchar. I think Kuchar is someone who's had tremendous experience playing the game. He knows a lot of these players very well from either previous Ryder Cups, President's Cups, or just playing on the tour. And I think he'll be able to provide some real valuable insight for Jim Furyk, especially when it comes down to the pairings. I mean, which players really match up well. And, of course, on a famous Saturday night before the singles on Sunday, who do you pick, in what order? So you need that valuable knowledge and insight. And I think Matt Kuchar, he's paid his due. He's had great success on the tour. He's been a former competitor of the Ryder Cup. So I think he's an obvious choice to be an assistant captain.
And he's very well liked by all the other players on tour, too. I mean, he gets along. He's got that personality. He doesn't grate on anybody. Gets along well with everybody, and everybody seems to respect him and listen to him. And, they'll seek his advice, and then he can keep the flow going and keep the momentum and the gelling of the team going together, too. So that's the name that's being thrown around the most is Kuchar. I'm sure a lot of these decisions are probably already made.
For sure.
We're just not going to hear about them until next Saturday because I know these guys all got to get it fitted for clothing. So
yeah.
So they've got to be getting all their bags made up and their clothing made up and all their names and stuff put on it and get the correct waist sizes of their pants so they all look good and stylish like none of us ever do when we go on the course. We just kind of grab whatever we got, throw it on and go. Yeah.
Well, it's quite the process, Steve. It's quite the process as it seems when seeing all these players and their fashion styles and whatnot.
Who is the clothing sponsor of the? Is it Polo?
Yes.
Ralph
Lauren Polo.
Polo always does good stuff, so that'll be good. They're very patriotic, very red, white, and blue. So that's a good call there. So they'll all look good. Okay, anything else about the tournament? I mean, we just all sit back now and wait for the Northern Trust or the Dell Technology.
The Dell Technology starts on Friday.
They're playing a Friday, Monday because it's Labor Day weekend, so they finish on Monday.
Correct.
So we won't know by Monday night. Are they going to make the announcements Monday night or Tuesday morning?
I believe Tuesday morning before.
Okay.
So once the Dell Technologies end and then Tuesday comes along, we will have the first 3 captain's picks, and I also think we'll have the full list of qualified European players because they're still waiting on that. So a lot of information next Tuesday about Ryder Cup material.
And then so for the Europeans, the big story there is Sergio Garcia, right? Because he is not qualified. He's the biggest name out there that is not qualified. What about Ian Poulter? Was he qualified or not? I think he was not qualified.
He is not
either.
qualified.
So he's another name. So they may be in a little bit bigger dilemma even than we are because most of those guys that are talking about play predominantly on the PGA Tour, not the European Tour. I think that our captain's picks have pretty well locked themselves in by their ability to play. But Europe may actually have a more difficult time sending, or producing its captain selections. Sergio is the last couple times I've seen Sergio play, he's been very lethargic, very uninterested in playing golf. It appears to be. He doesn't seem to show the passion. It's almost like we talked about the fact that he has not made a cut in a major since he won the Masters last year.
No, not since the Masters when he won.
And Poulter shows flashes of brilliance, but then he shows flashes of, Jesus, I could hit that shot and not look as bad as you made it look.
Yeah.
And he's just all over the place, but, they're 2 quality name players who are well established on the European Tour. Anybody else in contention over there that we're missing on the European team we can think of off the top of our head?
I mean, not really. I mean, not of the caliber and notoriety of those 2. And I think Thomas Bjorn, the captain of the European team, he's in Europe. It's a home, home advantage. He has a lot of pressure on him what to do because do you look at how they've played this year or do you take into account previous Ryder Cup experience where those 2 have played critical roles in helping Europe win, especially most recently in 2012, the Miracle at Medina. Those 2 were right in the mix and showing all their emotions. So It'll be very interesting to see where Thomas Bjorn goes. Especially, Sergio, it's just been so disappointing that and as you say, he just looks lethargic, looks very disinterested on the golf course.
Yeah, but in the end, I think Sergio's a pick.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to avoid.
But I still, Poulter's a little tougher case just because he's not. Poulter may be a better pick in my mind, but I think Sergio's a better chance of the lock. I think reputation precedes him. He still is a brand, and we're fighting. There still is a lot going on in this event, fighting for TV dollars, viewership, and everything like that. And to omit Sergio for reasons other than playing golf, probably not going to happen. But we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, it's just the fun part now of waiting up to the Ryder Cup. Ryder Cup starts in a month.
Yeah.
In Le Golf Course France, or whatever it's called up there.
Le Golf National.
Le Golf National, the National Golf Course of France. And actually, as I said last time we talked about it, it looks like a Pete Dye golf course. So
correct.
There's water on most every hole, it looked like, from the aerial shots I was looking at in the course. So it's one that's probably going to be more germane to the American style of golf than the European style of golf. Although I don't know how much the Europeans really play on link-style courses that much anymore either. I mean, I know they play the majors on them, the British Open. They try and keep those to link-style. But other than that, I think the modernization of golf courses all around the world through all the architects like Nicholas and Pete Dye and Norman and Tiger's doing courses all over the world now. It's not going to be the most major factor, but it is going to call for good shot selection. So, all right, anything else we need to cover on that aspect before we move on to the final aspect of what we want to talk about today?
Let's move on. It's an important topic to wrap up our show, Steve. Why don't you start us off?
I found out last week that we all know that the Tiger-Phil scenario is going down. They're going to play on the day after Thanksgiving in Las Vegas. However, we found out, you and I both did, it's going to be a pay-per-view event. And I think that is probably just catastrophic to the success of that event. I don't plan on paying any kind of amount of money to watch that thing on pay-per-view. My fear is that these guys are going to be too jovial. They're not playing for their own money. I would be more interested, both of them put $10 million out of their banks, checking accounts down, put it in a bowl, and said winner take all. I think they'd be a little more serious. I think now they're going to be mic'd up. It's going to be a lot of antic-type golf, a lot of silly season golf, as we call it.
Yeah.
And then to turn around and put it on a pay-per-view or pay-per-view, I was appalled when I heard that. I'm just really surprised that Tiger and Phil, both two class acts of the sport, would turn this thing into, both of them worth a combined darn near worth $1.5 billion combined, would turn around and let this happen where they're going to continue to try and pilfer more money from the audience and not playing for their own money. It diminishes the whole event for me as far as I'm concerned. I wasn't very high on the event to begin with anyway, because I know how it would be. It'll be a joke fest. They'll walk together. They'll mic each other up. They'll get them on the mics. Caddies will be mic'd, I'm sure. And it will be a pay-per-view event. But I think it's really, the whole thing smacks of just making a buck off two big names in golf. What do you think?
Well, first, I agree with you. I think that this should have happened 8 years ago, or even 10 years ago.
Yeah, when they were in their prime.
Tiger and Phil were in their prime. They were playing well. Hopefully, they would have made it less into, as you say, a joke fest. And you're right. I mean, I think it's going to be, they're trying to make this into a boxing match when really, golf isn't boxing. they're two completely different sports. And unfortunately, they're just trying to take the money out of people, hardworking people who are going to have to pay decent amount of money to watch this event. And to me, it's just sad. It's sad for the reputations of Tiger and Phil for them to allow them to do this. It's sad that the organizers, PGA Tour, even permitted them to do this, because I just think it's just, it's just such a phony way to try to, get, to try to increase ratings. But they're going to but it's going to be a catastrophe ratings-wise because they made it pay-per-view. I mean, if they really wanted some sort of rating, make it available to everyone, rather than those who have the money to pay for this event. But instead, they're only restricting it, making it a pay-per-view event, and it just gives golf a bad name, and it's just too bad because you're right. Tiger and Phil have represented this game in America, around the world, so well, and the fact that they're that they agreed to do this, and now to add on the pay-per-view aspect, I think it's going to bomb. I don't think it's going to be even that great, and we're going to look back and say, gee, what a regret that was to do an event like that.
Yeah, you throw in the fact Thanksgiving Day weekend. First off, Black Friday is the biggest shopping day of the year. People are going to be out. I guess they're banking on the fact that the husbands will say, I'm going to pay $50, or I would guess it's probably going to be around $50. That's generally what pay-per-view events cost, if I'm not mistaken. But also, that's usually a pretty big college football day. That whole weekend.
And NFL.
NFL, yeah, the NFL games on Thursday. You'll have NFL games on Saturday. You'll have NFL games on Sunday. I think they are not looking at the fact that golf is not as popular of a sport around the United States as is football at that time of year. And I think they already proved that by the fact that they moved the PGA Tour up into May, took it away from August or September, realizing they're tying into football, trying to push everything forward to get out of the football moniker. Here they come. They're going to put this made-for-television event. They'll get an audience. I mean, I don't know if they'll profit off of it or not. I don't know what the guarantees are for each of the players, what the payout is.
It's probably a ridiculous amount of money.
Sure, they're probably both guaranteed a ridiculous amount of money. Exactly. But I just think the whole genre smacks of not something I wanted to see two great golfers of our era be a part of. And especially when they're basically slowly becoming, and I don't want to use this very gingerly, ceremonial type golfers. They're competitive golfers still right now, but if either one of them wins again, it's going to be as much luck as it is going to be talent and skill.
For sure.
43, Phil's 47. There's not many guys on the PGA Tour that win at that age, so we're not even seeing them in their prime. Like I said, I would have watched it had it been on TV because I'm a golf fan. But to tell me I'm going to have to pay anywhere from $30 to $50 to watch this on a pay-per-view, no, thank you. I'll watch the highlights on ESPN that night, and I'm sure it'll be on HBO. It'll be on HBO or somewhere, some movie channel system in a week down the road. I just don't think it's going to be competitive. I think it's set up more as silly.
It's going to be a joke. And
they're all going to be mic'd.
Yeah.
You know they're going to mic everybody. They're going to mic the caddies. They're going to mic the players. You're going to hear all the chatter that goes on, which is kind of cool. I like that. But to pay make somebody pay $50 to hear all that, I'm very disappointed. So I'm not a big fan of this. I'm not a big supporter of this in any way, shape, or form.
No, I just do not see, and you hit the nail on the head, I don't see how they turn a profit from this. It happened 10 years ago. And mostly these sort of things happen, Steve. Maybe you can comment more, like once these players have retired. I mean, like a Nicholas or a Palmer, or like, to me, the fact that they're still, being competitive, I think it just dampens again the event because, they're still competitive and they're trying to make these guys younger again, but they're just not. They're not what they were 10 years ago.
Well, it's kind of what Palmer and Nicholas and Player did at the end of their career. They were the start of the senior tour, basically. Those three guys basically went out and did exhibitions, barnstorming golf, and did exhibitions, and went around and played, and they were all great. But they also were under the understanding that they were not going to be as dominant in the game anymore. And they went out and formed Big Three Golf, went around on tour, and from that bore out the senior tour, which became the Champions Tour, which led to a second great tour on the PGA system. But yeah, I don't know what to say. There's nothing I can say and still be polite, other than I think it's horsepucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just horsepucky to do it this way. It'd be one thing to put it on TV,
especially with
like the old Skins game. Yeah, do it like remember the old Skins game that started way back when.
Yes.
That was Nicholas, Palmer, Player, and I can't remember who the first original four guys in the original Skins game were. But then that evolved out. You started getting talent coming in there. Freddie, I know, played a time. Norman played for a while. And that was a fun break over Thanksgiving weekend. You get the 2-day event, 2 9-hole days. You see the Skins game, and that was fun where they were playing for money per hole. This, to me, though, is just the opportunity to go make a buck off your name. And like I said, I don't think it'll be thinking – they won't care if they make or miss a shot. They'll try some crazy shots that they normally wouldn't try. They'll laugh about it, kind of like being an NBA player. Playing again in Memphis on Tuesday night, don't care if I win or lose, I'm still getting my $1.2 million a game and my meal money, so I'm going to go out and have steaks and afterwards and go on to the next city and play the next night. All the fans paid average of $500 to come into the stadium with a family of 4 to watch the game. When the players don't care if they win or lose for the most part. I think that's just kind of what it's going to smack like.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I agree with you. I know I won't be watching because there's just other things to do that weekend, like watching football or college football, NFL, family, friends, turkey. I mean, I just, for sure they'll get an audience. I think, the real diehard Tiger Phil fans who have a bit of extra cash, will spend it to watch it. And I know in this new generation with technology, you can find a way with streaming online to watch it for free. But I just don't like the event, in and of itself, the whole principle behind the event. I just think it's phony. The fact that they're not going to put up their own money, I think is, makes it even phonier. And it just doesn't look good for the game of golf, especially with 2 real ambassadors for the game who provide so much for golf.
Yeah, well, all right, so we're both in agreement. Enough said there. I mean,
there you go.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know how it will play out in the end, but I don't think it's going to be an overwhelming success or anything of that nature. And like I said, I have never done pay-per-view for any sporting event ever. The only pay-per-view event I've ever watched was Tyson Holyfield when he bit his dadgum ear off.
Yeah.
That's the only pay-per-view event I've ever watched.
Money well spent, Steve.
Well, somebody else's house, they bought it, put it on a big screen out by their backyard, inflatable big screens. And that was fun to watch, although it was over in the 3rd round. They just qualified him. Other than that, I've just said, no, I'm not going to sit here and pay that kind of money just to watch a sporting event when you don't know how the outcome is going to play out. I would be more inclined to watch it if they each put up, like I said, put up $10 million out of their own pocket, put it in a bowl, and put it in a trophy, and winner gets the trophy and the $20 million that's in the trophy. But that's not going to happen. So
no,
disappointing to hear that. So what we got next week is we're going to move forward to the Bell Technologies Open. The pairings get down to 70 players. There will be some good players cut now. And then after that, it gets down to the top 30. So you're gonna have to basically play some of your best golf of the year right now to keep going. Is there anybody who's automatically into the finals yet? I don't think anybody is yet, are they? There's nobody who's included enough.
Not mathematically, Steve, but I mean,
okay.
Brooks Koepka has a good week next week. He can afford to take one of the tournaments off, and he'll be in the top 5 heading into the Tour Championship.
And the top 5 are the ones who, if the highest, what is the deal with the top 5? If
they win the Tour Championship, they win the FedEx Cup if they're in the top 5. They don't need any, automatically. So they don't need any, scenarios to happen like those from 6 through 25. They need some help at the top. But if you're in the top 5, all you got to do is go out there, win the Tour Championship at East Lake, and you're
automatic
Cup champion, and you win the $10 million.
And so if the top 5, if 4 of the top 5 players finish in the top 5, but none of them win, it would be the highest finishing player in the top of those top 5 players.
Correct.
So let's say if Tiger wins, but then Koepka finishes 2nd, Dustin Johnson finishes 3rd, Justin Thomas finishes 4th, then Koepka would win automatically, even though Tiger won the Tour Championship.
Tiger would win the Tour Championship. So the presenters would give him that trophy, and then Brooks would be standing there beside him winning the FedEx Cup. It happened with Phil and Tiger back in the day. Phil won the Tour Championship, but Tiger won the FedEx Cup. So it's happened before. But obviously, it'd be just nice to see the Tour champion win the FedEx Cup too, so getting both trophies.
Yeah, and we're getting some rumblings. We'll talk about this more next week, that they may be changing some of that down the road, some seeding type situation. We're just getting wind of this. Golf Digest announced that they may be looking at revamping some ability to give people strokes off going into the tournament based on the performance for the entire year. And we don't know enough about it yet to really address it this week, but next week we'll have a better dial-in on that. We'll talk about it then. So, Lucas, a great week for golf, great week for Canada. I'm glad you had a lot of fun up there. We're in the playoffs now. We're seeing people get whittled down. It's going to be a good tournament this week. TBC Boston's always a great course to have these guys go play on. And we'll just be back next Tuesday, and wrap up. We'll be talking about the Ryder Cup picks, the 3 selections that they made. I hope we're not – well, I don't know. We may be surprised, but I don't think we're going to be surprised. I think the 3 players we've all aforementioned are pretty well locked, so we'll see. And anything else you want to close on? Lucas? All right, and we have lost Lucas for the time being. So with that, this is Steve Risley of the Golf Show. Lucas, Canada. He's back.
I'm back.
You're back. All right, Lucas, wrap us up, because I just wrapped it up. Hello?
Hello.
You there?
I'm here.
Wrap us up, Lucas.
All right. Well, everyone, I just want to wrap things up here. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of The Golf Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I want to thank my co-host, Steve Risley, for always providing insightful insight and perspective on the game of golf. You can, of course, check us out next week and, of course, find The Golf Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Grueling Truth is on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Speaker, Stitcher, you name it, you'll find the Grueling Truth Sports Network. So, for my co-host, Steve Risley, my name is Lucas Weiss saying so long. You've been listening to The Golf Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, where the legends